Well, for many Mainers in the wintertime, spring gets near and most people would head south, but those who love winter would head north. Maybe it was a trip to Baxter State Park, Mount Katahdin. But 95% of Mainers presented with a spring vacation option might head to the tropics, to the Caribbean. Many of you have probably been here, Trunk Bay, St. John Island. But 6 of us from LL Bean and other parts of Maine decided not to head to Baxter Park, not to head to St. John Island, but instead to go to Greenland and participate in the Arctic Circle race, billed as the toughest cross-country ski race in the world. And I must say, the brochure lied. There was no flat terrain in the 3 days we skied. You ski 30 miles a day, 90 miles total, and for 2 of the nights you camp out in the snow. Not as bad as you might think. Because we've all been reading about Greenland the last 10, 20 years. It's ground zero for global warming as the ice cap starts to melt. It has great significance for those who live near the ocean. It's estimated that if the Greenland ice cap should ever melt completely, the level of sea rise would be 20 feet. Greenland is the biggest island in the world. It's about 1,800 miles north to south, 700 miles wide at its widest point, and 80% of it's covered by ice. And the ice averages about 1.5 miles of thickness. It's the second largest land-based ice mass in the world, next to the Antarctic ice shelf or ice mass, which is 10 times bigger than the Greenlandic ice sheet. So think about the ramifications of melt. If the Greenland ice sheet should melt, oceans rise by 20 feet. If the Antarctic ice sheet melts completely, that adds another 200 feet of elevation rise of the ocean levels. So sobering thoughts indeed. So there was 6 of us involved on the trip. Four of us worked at LL Bean, and one of the fellows was a ranger up in Baxter State Park. He had great training backyard, plenty of snow. Oh, we were jealous. Down here along the coast, there's not a lot of snow to practice on. So we'd been signed up for this event for 3 months. And then we had 2 months left and 1 month left. And finally the day came where Chris drove Rob and I down to the airport to meet the other fellows. You can see it's definitely under March, no snow on the coast of Maine. Posing with all your ski baggage and luggage, headed to Greenland. Well, not really. You take the bus down to Logan Airport, and like any European flight, it's a 9 o'clock departure. Iceland Air. Now, truly, in New England saying you can't get there from here, and that's true of getting to Greenland. There are no commercial flights from the United States. So to get to Greenland, you need to fly to Copenhagen, Denmark, and then the next day we got on another plane and flew all the way back to Greenland. So you're pretty bleary-eyed by the time you get to Greenland. There will be a stop, though, in Iceland to change planes. Many of you have deplaned here and changed planes. Iceland's a little bit bigger than the state of Maine. And there's 360,000 people live on the island. A third of them live in the capital, Reykjavik. So here's your Reykjavik airport in Iceland. Then with a 2-hour delay, a wait, we get to Copenhagen, Denmark. We left Sunday night, get to Copenhagen Monday noon. Now, Denmark is about twice the size of Massachusetts, has about the same population, 6 million people. But Denmark is a very unusually shaped country. It's made up of 400 islands, of which 70 are populated. Copenhagen, the capital, is the size of Boston, way over to the east. And most of you have been to Europe, and I think you'd agree with this statement. Oh, the Europeans have transportation nailed. It's fast, it's efficient, it's on time, it's clean. When you land in Copenhagen, you're only 10 minutes by subway to downtown Copenhagen, so very accessible from the airport. Passing by the largest hotel in Scandinavia, the Bella Sky, 800 plus rooms. It'd be great someday when they come back and finish the thing. Now, we stayed in the lap of luxury and place a part of Copenhagen called Nyhaven, which means New Harbor. And this area of town was a vast complex of warehouses that ship goods all over the world. And most of these buildings now are upscale boutiques and hotels and restaurants. We're staying at the brick building in the center of the screen. Boy, travel can be stressful, can't it? Now, in the brochure, it did say every room had an ocean view. Well, sort of. You had to stick your head out the window. But we're in Copenhagen, not for long, though. If I could show you one picture typical of Copenhagen, this would be it. Again, this is all part of Nyhaven. And the man lived in one of those buildings in the middle. His name was Hans Christian Andersen in the middle 1800s. He wrote many stories and fables, never married. In his work, his life was his writing. He wrote over 3,000 stories and fables. And if you've ever been to Central Park in New York City, you might have walked by the Hans Christian Andersen statue. There's the ugly duckling. Well, when you fly the evening flight to Europe, you don't want to sleep when you get there. So what do? You eat, because everybody eats outside. It's near the end of March, but everybody's outside eating. Across from my table, across the harbor, this is the Copenhagen Opera House. People are divided. 50% think it's the ugliest building in the world, and the other 50% think it's the most beautiful. One of the most expensive opera houses ever built. Behind it's a very odd building, which was featured in Time magazine a month ago. It's their waste energy complex. Just opened up a couple of years ago. So all the waste in Copenhagen is trucked here. It's incinerated, and that creates electricity and power for the city of Copenhagen. Denmark is judged to be, by Environmental Performance Index, to be the greenest country in the world, followed by Luxembourg, then followed by Switzerland, and then followed by the UK. Where's the United States on that list of green countries? Number 24. Russia is number 56, and China is 120. I'm not sure who number 180 is, but they got some work to go. So Denmark, greenest country in the world. Now, interesting thing about this building is there's a ski slope on the roof. So any time of year, you can go skiing on top of the waste to energy building in Copenhagen. It's 1,200 feet long. It's about a 200-foot vertical rise. And the other far end of the building, there's one of the largest rock climbing walls in the world. If you got 2 hours in Copenhagen, you go down to the harbor to see the Little Mermaid, made famous by Hans Christian Andersen, 4 feet tall, weighs 385 pounds. And it's a source of much political discourse, and it's been destroyed many times. People put spray paint on it and political slogans. So it attracts a crowd. Little Mermaid, 1989 Walt Disney film. When you think of Denmark, you think of Danish. You might not think of pigs, though, but Denmark is the largest pork export country in the world, much of it going to Germany. Also, you might have read in the papers last couple of months, because of COVID-19, a variant of COVID was found to be in their mink population. And Denmark, up to this point, has been the largest exporter of mink fur in the world. And they just killed 18 million mink because of the COVID infestations. And they've pretty much admitted they made a mistake. We're too hasty to do that. Something is rotten in the state of Denmark. We think of Denmark, we think of William Shakespeare. To be or not to be, that is the question. Interestingly enough, this fellow made his mark playing Hamlet right after the Civil War. He played it in New England, in Portland, Bangor, Boston, all the big cities along the East Coast. His name was Edwin Booth. Unfortunately, he had a brother that did something horrible. He assassinated Abraham Lincoln. So Edwin Booth's acting career suffered for a couple of years as he was associated with his brother's act. But a couple of years after, he got back to performing Hamlet. Edwin Booth. You think of Legos, you think of Denmark. And I know we all love to go out and eat fine restaurants. And if you talk with the chef in a good restaurant, you might ask them what butter they use. And a lot of people use Lurpak, one of the finest butters in the world, made in Denmark. Famous Danes include Victor Borge, great comedian, great piano player. Niels Bohr, he won the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1922. Brilliant at atomic theory. There is an element named after him named borium. He was a Dane. Kierkegaard, Soren Kierkegaard, one of the great philosophers who was the father of modern existentialism. I love this quote. Boy, isn't it true today? There are two ways to be fooled. One is to believe what isn't true. The other is to refuse to believe what is true. Oh, we all love shopping. This would be their equivalent of Macy's in Copenhagen, the Magasin du Nord. Okay, enough of Copenhagen. Next day dawns, and we're going to get on a flight from Copenhagen headed back west to Greenland, largest island in the world. So we're trying to get to Sisimiut. That's where the 3-day event's going to take place, but they don't have a big airport. So we had to land in Kangerlussuaq. This airport was built by the Americans in World War II. It's one of the larger airports in Greenland. Now the capital is Nuuk, down with a G, a little below where the G is in Greenland. Only 56,000 people live on the island of Greenland. 18,000 of those people live in Nuuk, so a third of the population lives in the capital city. Sisimiut is the second largest town in Greenland. 5,500 people live there. That's where we're going. Well, how big is Greenland? It's huge. 3 states of Texas would fit within the island of Greenland. And for you Rhode Islanders in the crowd, 689 Rhode Islands would fit within the island of Greenland. So we land with the big jet in Kangerlussuaq, but we have 50 miles to go to the west to get to where we want to go. So we all deplane, all the ski gear, and about 180 skiers. And they put us on these little planes. There were a series of little planes, and they flew us to Sisimiut. So we get to Sisimiut, and we're all nervous. What's this 3-day event going to be like? And we had signed up for the hotel option. Frankly, I did not have high expectations. I thought the snow would be blowing through the chinks in the walls. Oh my gosh, it was a 4-star hotel. So we walk into the lobby of the hotel, and we saw these t-shirts for sale, stranded in Sisimiut, lucky me. No, I didn't give it much thought at that point, but we're going to be in Sisimiut for a week. And a week later, keep these t-shirts in mind. They're going to make a lot more sense. So as I mentioned, there was a beautiful hotel. They had a conference room, and here we are above the Arctic Circle in March. And every table was covered with a cactus. I never thought I'd go to Greenland and see a cactus. Then down the road from the hotel was a supermarket. Had everything you needed, including Ben & Jerry's ice cream from Vermont. Again, a head scratcher above the Arctic Circle, and I'm buying a pint of Ben & Jerry's ice cream. Well, the lap of luxury, 4 of us had a nice suite. The other 2 guys had a smaller room adjacent. Now, we're there a couple of days before the event. You can see the lobby is where everybody met to chat, and there were about 200 skiers on the whole event from all over the world. There only were 9 from America. I was proud to say 7 were from Maine. There was a fellow from Boston and a person from Vermont. So we were the United States connection, or 9 skiers out of the nearly 200 skiers. Well, you're inside, it was warm and toasty, but you went outside, and this is the 3rd week of March, and you knew you were in Greenland. Low angle of the sun and howling wind and temperatures in the upper teens, lower 20s. Well, there's no flat spot in Sisimiut. Again, think about 5,500 people living here. It's full employment. A lot of people employed by the fisheries, which is a big part of the Greenlandic economy. Imagine you live in these greenhouses and you have young kids, you send them out to play in the backyard. You might want to tether them to the house with a rope. That's a long drop. So for 2 days, we walked around Sisimiut getting our bearings, and I wasn't looking at Maine license plates anymore. I was looking at Greenlandic license plates. Now, Greenland is technically a part of Denmark. They have what's called self-rule, and they take care of all everything that needs to be taken care of, except for foreign affairs, and Denmark takes care of foreign affairs and military for Greenland. Everything else, though, is up to the Greenlanders. I'm not going to begin to pronounce that. It's not Smith Avenue. As I mentioned, it just be like you in Brunswick, Maine, a little smaller version. This is their grocery store, one of 3 in town. You walked in, they had everything you needed. Oh, you need your Cocoa Puffs fix. There it is. Now, I know what you're thinking. Michael, $42.95. Well, their currency is the Danish kroner, which is about 16 cents a kroner. So if you do the math there, the cereal's selling for about $7 a box. Not bad. Now, next to the grocery store, there was where the locals shop, the Greenlanders. So get out of work and, let's go have some walrus tonight. And they were very accommodating here. They let all us tourists come in and take pictures. I'm not sure if we're looking at seal meat here, perhaps. That looks appetizing. And leopard fish, fish that thrives in the cold Greenlandic waters. Now, Sisimiut, why is it the second biggest town in Greenland? Well, it's because it has the most northerly ice-free harbor in Greenland. Most of the thriving communities are on the west coast, although there are communities on the east coast, but the employment is much harder to come by on the east coast, and the west coast has more employment, mostly fishing. I know it looks like it's pretty much frozen over, but no, it never freezes completely, so any given day you can get out, in and out of this harbor. So it's really neat to go down in the morning and watch the seal hunters come in, and they can hunt whales and walrus as well. It was a cold, bitter cold morning. These folks are tough. I was probably going up to that market I showed you where they sell the seal meat and the whale meat. You can see what a beautiful community is. This will be our backdrop for our 3 days of skiing. You see that little peak on the left, I call that my little Matterhorn. It's about 2,500 feet above sea level. This would be a summer picture, obviously, and you can see the bright color of the houses. Again, think of this being a community of 5,500 people, second biggest community anywhere in Greenland. There's the same mountain seen from the air. And from the top of that mountain, you're looking down into Sisimiut. You notice those lakes, that's the source of their public drinking water. The town gets its energy from hydroelectricity from a river that's dammed up nearby. So we are back to the end of March, and we've still got a day to go before we start skiing on Friday morning. I just was enthralled by the beauty, and because of the lack of pollution, the air was so clear. So it was hard to tell how far something was away. There's our little Matterhorn. Well, the 2 days before the event, it was quite menacing out over the water. And it was almost like lake effect snow over the water. And sometimes that would creep onto shore and we get a 2 or 3 inch snowfall, but it always looked like something was about to happen. While many of the people live in their own homes, most of the folks in the community live in apartment-style housing and no dryers, so everything kind of freeze dries out on the front balcony. So how's all this stuff get in and out of Sisimiut? Well, it comes in once a week, or once every couple of weeks by cargo ship, container ship. Again, most northerly ice-free harbor anywhere in Greenland. So this is where your cactus are coming in, your Ben & Jerry's ice cream. And what's leaving? Shrimp, halibut, and codfish. Well, our first day there, we bought a banana, a very green one. This picture's taken a week later. So I guess one of the questions this show is going to answer today, how long does it take to eat a banana in Greenland? 1 week. Oh, there goes the shrimp. The cod and the haddock headed back to Europe. And there's the shrimp waiting for the next container ship. The fishery is 50% of the Greenlandic economy. They're just starting to get mining going. So what makes up the other 50% of revenues? Well, the Danish government every year subsidizes Greenland to the tune of $600 million. The Greenlanders would like to be completely independent, but that's not going to happen until the Greenlanders can get more export income. And we'll see if that'll happen as the ice sheet starts to melt. Will really open up many mining opportunities, especially for rare earth elements. So the Greenland economy is going to look a lot different in the next 100 years than it does right now. Today, it's Danish dependent and fishery dependent. Now, the shrimp is not this shrimp. These are Alaskan shrimp. They're really the shrimp we get here in Maine. They're the little bitty shrimp. So Greenland shrimp would look just like the Maine shrimp. So it was neat to walk down by the waterfront early in the morning, see all these containers piled up at the dock. This little sculpture of a Greenlander fishing for halibut. Well, Come Thursday afternoon, I think we were all pretty nervous about, gee, are we going to be able to figure out the waxing for our cross-country skis? There was a little outdoor store in town, kind of their version of LL Bean. So we wandered down, and they had a special that weekend that they would wax your skis for $150. So that meant 3 wax jobs to get you going on Friday. Then they would wax them at camp Saturday night and get them ready. I said, that, yes, three waxings for Friday ski, Saturday ski, and Sunday ski, $50 a day, $150 total. And he looked like he knew what he was doing. And my gosh, he got the wax just right. So when you were tired at night after 30 miles of skiing, you didn't have to stress out about getting your skis waxed up for the next day. He was doing it. Thank you. This whole town turns out for this once-a-year event. Unfortunately, last year's event was canceled due to COVID-19. This morning, I just found out this year's event is canceled as well. So our participation 2 years ago was the last time this race was held. So hopefully next year, it'll be held again. One of the really moving parts of the experience was Thursday afternoon, we were told to gather at the Civic Center, and the mayor of the town and other dignitaries led us on a walk down to a church to have a church service to bless the event. This was a very touching ceremony. You could tell us tourists, right? Taking pictures out over the harbor as everybody lines up to head inside the church. Now, the whole service was done in Greenlandic. That is the language of Greenland. Many people speak Danish and many speak English as well. But this was done in Greenlandic, hymn book in Greenlandic. So we just kind of hummed along. But it's very touching to be there with local folks. You got the skiers from around the world, a real feeling of camaraderie. My gosh, Friday morning did dawn, 9 o'clock, we're at the race start. They're going to fire the pistol and we're off for 3 days of skiing. Whole town turns out, school's canceled, and not sure why this family chose the American flag, but we're glad they did. Now, there were about 200 skiers and quite a few from Greenland. I'd say there were probably about 30 Greenlandic skiers. There were some Olympic skiers in this event, an Olympic skier from Australia. There was a woman Olympic skier from France. So there were some very good skiers. Then there's folks like me that are strong skiers, but we're not going to win any races. We're at the back of the pack. We're just trying to finish the darn thing. Well, they didn't say in the brochure anything about vertical gain or vertical drop, but it was obvious by the map that there were a lot of hills. I hoped they were just going up valleys, but we quickly found out why they don't tell you much about the vertical rise. Nobody would sign up for the event. So first day of skiing at 13,000 feet of vertical rise and gain. Basically, you have 6,500 feet up and 6,500 feet down. World's toughest cross-country ski race. Most things are overblown, exaggerated in life. I found that this race lived up to its billing. It was hard. So 3 days of this. So everybody starts out with different expectations. Mine was to finish it. The Australian and the French women, their goal was to win it. Now, when you start out, there's a little half-mile loop that goes up a hill, comes back down to the start line. And at the bottom of this hill, all the locals gather. And we're all just getting used to our fast skis. You come hurtling down that hill, you want to be a hero, and 80% of the people fall in a heap at the base of the hill. And the cowbells are going, people are cheering, fist pumping. It's kind of like going to the Indianapolis 500 and watching for a car wreck. So this was a scene of great frivolity for the locals. Oh, that hurts, doesn't it? I even did my part, the butt plant, not a face plant, thank goodness. So a half mile out back, and then you head for your 30 miles out into the backcountry. And this pretty much sums it up. If you're not going uphill, you're going downhill. And I do mean downhill. In fact, some places were so steep, even the Olympic skiers, you couldn't ski it. You had to take your skis off and walk down. It was that dangerous. But on many of the hills I walked down, I just couldn't control my speed. Do you think this woman's going to survive it, or is she going to go down in a heap? Looks to me like she's too far gone. I think she's going down. Ouch. That's the title of this slide. Ouch. Well, Rob, the photographers of the event, loved to photograph him, get a little lather going, and beard's frozen solid. Charlie, one of our other skiers from Maine, he's a great skier. No effort at all, no perspiration. So I know what you're probably wondering. Okay, you ski your 30 miles that first day, Michael. But what about this camping out? Well, you don't have to carry your own gear. You arrive in Sisimiut with your duffel bag full of warm clothes. They bring your duffel bags out to the camp by snowmobile. So when you ski back to the camp, all your stuff is there. Thank goodness. You just ski with a little day pack with some survival items in it. But the wind did blow that first night, Friday night, and boy, the tents were pretty much covered by snow in the morning. In fact, that morning was very blustery, Saturday morning. I had been very, very worried about the bathroom situation. Now think about 200 skiers plus all that staff. And somebody says, well, Michael, that's the bathroom. What do you mean it's the bathroom? That's all there is? All I could picture in the morning was 90 people out to the left, the men's side, and 60 people out to the right, the women's side, waiting to go to the bathroom. There was no line ever. I guess they had that figured out. So this winter camping is pretty tame stuff. Why? Well, they basically create a canvas hotel for everybody up to a certain point in the evening. They erect these canvas tents. There's heaters inside. They've got plywood floors. So inside the tents, it's 75, 80 degrees. One of the tents is dedicated to the change room. So your duffel bags in here, you get the wet stuff off. Half the coat hanging. I don't know why she's smiling. She just skied 30 miles in the toughest terrain in the world. She's still got energy to smile, though. All volunteers running the event. This woman is the water woman. So all's well and good until 9:59 at night. Then somebody comes in the tents, and all 180, 200 skiers in these tents. And they announce to the crowd, okay, folks, it's 10 o'clock. Everybody has to leave the nice heated tents and go down to your tents for the night. And if anybody's found back here in the wee hours of the morning, you'll be disqualified from the event. Oh, it was tempting to sneak back, but you couldn't. Next morning was a ground blizzard. We were due to start at 9 o'clock for the next 30 miles, and they delayed the start. 10 o'clock, they came back and made another announcement. Still too dangerous out there. We're going to delay till 11. Now, for skiers like me, who are just trying to finish the event, that's a problem. I need every hour of daylight I can get to finish the course. And 11 o'clock, I knew I wasn't going to be able to make the 30 miles by dark. So they do have a 20-mile option. You can sign up for this event and ski 60 miles, 20 miles a day over 3 days, or you can sign up for the 30 miles per day, 90 miles, because we had all signed up for the 90. And a lot of people that Saturday morning made the switch to 20 miles, and that made it so much more enjoyable. So we're pretty pensive that Saturday morning, waiting for them to tell us that we could start skiing. They can see on Tom and Joel's face the apprehension. We're losing precious time that we could be out there skiing. Finally, at 11 o'clock, they fire the pistol. Ben's got all his frostbite protection on his cheeks and his nose. So doesn't that look a lot more doable, 20 miles? You can see if you continue on beyond the red line, you can see where it goes up onto the water to the right. That was the 30-mile loop on day 2. Many of us decided just to do the 20 miles. So 11 o'clock, same thing as the day before. The gun goes off and we're headed out. Again, some of the Greenlanders proudly skiing in the race. Here's Joel from LL Bean chugging through the snow, which started again late morning. Tom trying to control a steep downhill. Well, later that Saturday, it cleared up, wind died down. It was absolutely beautiful. In the low to mid 20s, but with no wind, it was just balmy. So those of us skied the 20 miles, we're just shuffling along, enjoying the scenery. That night, local hunters brought out by snowmobile some whale meat, seal meat, walrus meat, and shrimp. It was really neat. It was like having a little baked bean supper, except it was the local fare. And boy, I must say, I got on a piece of whale meat, and I must have been chewing for half an hour to get it down. Very tough, kind of like eating a soft candle. That night, about 2 o'clock in the morning, somebody yelled out, folks, the Aurora Borealis, the Northern Lights. We all got out, and it was stunning. I think we'd all gone there, not just to ski in the race, but to see the Northern Lights as well. Oh, this is how an event should end. Day 3, we know we're going to survive it. Many folks skiing the 30 miles, many of us skiing the 20 miles. Sun, no wind, perfect way to end an event. You've probably been wondering about the ski track. Was it good? It was great. They have a big track setting machine, so it's setting 30 miles of track, although it would get windblown with snow during the course of the day and beat up by the skiers. But in the morning, it was just pristine. I think this sums up the beauty of the event. Imagine 3 days of this, and your head was just swiveling and mountains everywhere. Volunteers, they have all kinds of duties and responsibilities. This fellow was one of the safety stations, and he was kind of out in the middle of nowhere. You can see Sisimiut way in the background. He had a walkie-talkie, and if anybody skied by was having difficulty, sprained ankle or broken ski, he would call for somebody to come out and give some support. They take safety very seriously in this event. Every 6 or 7 miles, you'd have an aid station where you could get hot water, also get some energy snacks like chocolate and bits of bread. The dog sled team went by. This couple were delightful, mother and daughter. What a great event to share. They each were from Copenhagen, and the daughter had seen news of the event and said, Mom, let's go to Greenland together and ski it. What a wonderful adventure to share together. Out in the middle of nowhere was a ski area. I have no idea if it was operational or not. It wasn't operational when we skied through. You can see the little line of ants going across the landscape. The Olympic skiers way up to the right, Michael Perry's of the world way back to the left. You'd be working up a long, lonely slope thinking about, gee, I wonder how the Bowdoin sports teams are doing or how the Red Sox do in their first game. And you just pinch yourself like, oh my gosh, I'm skiing above the Arctic Circle. Now, we're not skiing on the ice cap. The ice cap's actually still another, 60 miles inland. Oh, to be young again. I'm 67, and I don't know if I ever had thighs like that, but that girl just powered up that slope, and I'm just slogging. A couple ladies from London, England, and they beckoned me, Mike, take the skis off, you're floundering, walk up with us. And we're talking about Boris Johnson and Donald Trump. And I hated these guys. These are the winners. You got the Australian Olympic champion on the right, and you've got the Greenlandic ski champion on the left. They were dueling for 3 days to see who would finish first and second. Afternoon of day 3, Sunday afternoon, we can't believe it. We've survived it. The toughest cross-country ski race in the world. We're still smiling. Whole town gathers again to greet us coming in this time. Boy, you saw those banners at the finish line. You were very happy. Little girl, she's not too excited about the skiers coming in. She's dozing away in the low March sun. Isn't she a cutie? Even the sled dogs are welcoming us back. I think there's more sled dogs in town than there are people. Now, while we were out for the 3-day ski in the backcountry, they had an little event for the families and kids in town. Next year, they're going to give this kid some skis, but he's getting ready for next year. I think this little girl got up in the morning with her PJs, and her dad said, get your skis on, we're going skiing. Oh, this kid's styling. He's got his little LL Bean backpack on. He's blowing a bubble there. Do you remember that hill in the day 1 Friday, we all skied down it back into town and everybody fell down? Well, you got the kids skiing down the hill too. And I love the bottom middle of the picture. You've got the little kid and his mother has just gone down in a heap with him. Oh, this is a future Olympic champion. Oh, I'd like to be able to ski like that. So the whole town is glad we're back. I love this sign. Welcome back from our amazing backcountry. We hope that you enjoyed it. Well, it's the spirit of the message. There is a little museum in Sisimiut, and because the original settlers were Danes, original white settlers, 1721. Although Eric the Red did visit Greenland. And there have been people in Greenland since 2500 BC. The church, the Blue Church, the oldest church in Greenland, 1775. That is a whalebone, which you walk through to head up the path to the little Blue Church. There's the Red Church above the Blue Church. That's the church where we had that service on Thursday afternoon. Well, we decided, being tourists for another day, that we would take a sled dog ride. Boy, it was cold as it was skiing the 3 days. When you're not doing anything and just standing around, it's frigid. This is called Dogtown. Oh, we want to bring a couple home, aren't they cuties? They just live in the snow. They're tough. Well, that Monday night, they had a gala, a banquet to celebrate the achievement of the skiers. And some of the organizers dressed in their traditional dress. Aren't those beautiful outfits? The decking of our hotel, signs, different places around the world, Copenhagen, New York, about 2,000 miles either direction. So come Tuesday, we all think we're flying back home. We get on the bus from the hotel, the half-mile ride to the airport. It had been snowing through the night, and kind of a wet, pasty snow. We got down to the airport and getting processed, and our baggage checked in. There were no planes there. They were trying to keep the runway clear. I want to show you what this place looks like in the summer, same airport. Isn't that beautiful? You wouldn't know it was the same airport. So you see the blue building, left of center. That's where we checked in. That's where we're hanging out. So hang out we did, 4 hours. It got to be about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It was obvious that the planes weren't coming in because of the weather. So they brought the buses back from the town. We all headed back to the hotel. They hadn't made the beds up yet. And we walked in the lobby, and I looked at those t-shirts and laughed. Stranded in Sisimiut, lucky me. I bought a t-shirt. Yes, this is a very hard place to leave. So come Wednesday morning, we do the same thing all over again. We take the bus down to the airport, snowing even harder. It looks even more dubious that we're going to make it out of here. Well, about noon, a little hole opened up overhead. These little red planes, not this plane, flew in, picked us up, brought us here. We waited to 12 midnight where we met this plane, and it took us back, not to Logan Airport, back to Copenhagen, Denmark. So we only had a couple hours layover. So Tom had a great idea. Well, let's take the metro in, and we'll just take the 1 hour canal boat tour to see a little more of Copenhagen. A little bleary-eyed, haven't got much sleep from the time we left Greenland. If you've ever taken a canal tour in Denmark, it's a great way to see the city if you have a small amount of time. This would be April 1st at this point. If you haven't been to Copenhagen since 2000, boy, it's really changed. Down by the waterfront, there's a lot of new theaters, opera houses, libraries, and museums. You know, there's that church on the right. That's the largest dome church anywhere in Scandinavia. It's called Marble Church. They started building it in the early 1700s, but they quickly ran out of money. It took them 150 years to fundraise, and they finally got it finished 150 years later. The Queen of Denmark lives here near Marble Church. It's Queen Margrethe. She has been queen for nearly 50 years. Now, Denmark is the constitutional monarchy or parliamentary democracy, and the queen has very little power. It's kind of like England, where it's more ceremonial, but she's a feisty lady. The corporate headquarters of one of the great container ship companies, Maersk. Now, in the interest of time here, I know we're almost at our time limit here. I'm just going to move ahead, so bear with me here. There we go. So I hope you've enjoyed our tour, our Ski of the Arctic Circle race, little side visit to Copenhagen, Denmark. I apologize for the beginning, but in a condensed version, we completed the race. Hope you're all still smiling. But we'll be reading about Greenland a lot in the years to come as the ice cap retreats. I think this is a very sobering picture. This picture's taken the beginning of April. And years ago, somebody with their dogs and sled would have been sledding over compact ice and snow. But now the seasons have been turned topsy-turvy. Once there was snow and ice, now it's water on top of ice. And when we did talk to the locals, we asked them about climate change, and without hesitation, they said, young man, we get the strangest weather now. It snows when it should be raining. It rains when it should be snowing. It's warm when it should be cold. It's cold when it should be warm. It's just a climate turned topsy-turvy. And nowhere in the world is the climate changing faster than it is in Greenland. And nowhere in the world is ice melting faster than it is in Greenland. So imagine someday, well beyond our time, if that ice should ever melt, the ocean's rising 20 feet. Also think about the exposure of land, where nations like the United States and China have their eyes on those rare earth elements that will be exposed and mined at times in the future. When will that come? So I want to thank you all very much. And I wonder if there's any questions, Mike, at all?
Mike, there was a question about the latitude of Sisimiut, which I just looked up. Looks like it's 66.93595 degrees north. Is that right to you?
Yeah, it's just above the Arctic Circle. So Nuuk, the capital, is below the Arctic Circle, and Sisimiut is about 40 miles above the Arctic Circle.
Great. I don't know if anyone else has questions for you, Michael. I was wondering, you started talking about climate and weather. I was wondering about a couple things. One, how many hours of daylight you had. You were concerned about whether you're going to finish a 30-mile course. Although I have seen you out cross-country skiing, and I think you are swifter than you're letting on. But hours of daylight, and what were the temperatures like during the day and at night while you're out there?
Mike, great questions. As far as the daylight, it was amazing. We were only there a week, and you could see, literally they were gaining daylight 5 or 6 minutes a day. And by the time we left last day of March, it did be a hint of twilight in the air at 10 o'clock at night. But as far as sun above the horizon, it was generally about, I'd say, 7:30 to about 5 o'clock or so, but gaining greatly each day. As far as temperatures, this was a warmer event than previous years. It can be bitter. In fact, some years they've actually canceled one of the days because it was so dangerous to ski because of the cold. We would set out in the mornings. We would be in the upper teens and lower 20s. And by the end of the day, it'd be near 30. So we were very lucky. It was blue wax or green wax. And the fellow did a great job waxing our skis. You never had to stop and re-wax. And he took all the stress out of that. So I must say, Greenland was much more developed than I had anticipated. I think that was my biggest surprise. Any other questions or thoughts? Or
no, we have some compliments for what an excellent slideshow, and I would certainly echo those. And just say that we were talking before the show started about how excited we're going to be when we leave the remote setting and are back in person. And for anyone who hasn't seen a Michael Perry slideshow live, I will throw in a plug. When hopefully next winter, when we're needing entertainment, we can get you over here to the Schwartz Outdoor Leadership Center to do some of your shows live, which would be wonderful. Yeah. Michael, I think we don't have any further questions, but I just wanted to thank our studio audience for joining us this afternoon. And I think if people enjoy this sort of presentation, they should pester Rhodey Lloyd to bring Michael Perry back for another one. I know you have an inexhaustible supply of slideshows of your outdoor adventures for many years. So,
well, really... this is Rhodey Lloyd, and it won't take much pestering. to have both of you back.
I
And
knew I
I
would draw her out.
I know it. I did just want to note there are a few more questions in here.
Uh-oh.
Good.
There you go. This is why I should not be allowed to be the moderator for these events. Let's see. Michael, I actually was wondering about this myself. How can people find out more about the ski event in terms of where to look it up and what you need to qualify? Are there criteria, and how do we find that information?
Well, if you just Google up Arctic Circle Race, you'll get their website. Although this year's event has been canceled, so the next one will be 2022. It's usually held the last week of March or the first few days of April. As far as level of fitness, who should go to this event? One is you should be very fit. You should have a very positive outlook. In other words, you're going to start skiing and you ski until they tell you to stop. And if you're happy at the end of the day doing something like that, this event's for you. And some of the skiers, like the two women from London, England, they had not been on skis all winter. They had used Nordic track to train, London, England, not having much snow. But they just had a great attitude. They were going for the experience, and they had the time of their lives. So there was the fellow from Boston. He'd done very little on snow training because there wasn't much snow around Boston a couple of winters ago. So again, just a positive outlook, a strong positive attitude, and one can participate. And it truly is an adventure of a lifetime. I'd say I've done a lot of interesting things in the outdoors, and this is at the top of my list.
Great. Yeah, well, I was thinking as long as that aid station woman with the platter of chocolate was short enough intervals, I could keep going all day, with just that.
Yeah.
Water. Oh, great. Let's see. I know you claim not to be an expert on Denmark, but we have one Copenhagen question, which is whether the amusement park garden called Tivoli is still there. This person, Peter Driscoll, was there 51 years ago, and he's wondering if you saw that while you were there.
We were there for such a short amount of time, but it is still operating. It's one of the highlights of a Copenhagen visit. So
great.
Also it wouldn't be in its prime offering when we were there, but I hear it's doing very well.
Great. Wonderful.
You got me nervous with that Denmark question, Mike.
Michael, I was amazed in the few minutes you spent on Denmark, how much information I learned. Or was reminded of people I had heard of and didn't realize they were Danes. So there we go. It's all good. Well, Michael, thank you again for this wonderful show. And as I said, I am planning on getting you back here, and I know Rhodey will also do that in a heartbeat. So thanks to everyone who joined us, and get out there. Hopefully we have 2 inches of snow in Brunswick. So if you're so inclined, you can get out and play in the snow today. Anyway, thanks again, Michael. And thank you all for joining us.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks, Rhodey.
Take care.